The lights inside the America's Got Talent theater were soft and warm, like the glow of early evening. People spoke in quiet tones as they found their seats. The stage curtain stood still, waiting. Behind it, a man sat alone on a simple chair. His uniform was clean but worn, pressed with care. He was a Filipino soldier named Mateo Cruz. He had traveled far from his island home, far from the sound of waves and morning roosters. Tonight, his hands rested on his knees, steady but heavy. He breathed slowly, listening to the low hum of the crowd. This moment felt unreal, like a dream shaped by many long nights. Mateo closed his eyes for a second and remembered why he was here. He was not here to impress. He was here to honor something bigger than fear, bigger than hunger, bigger than himself. Mateo grew up in a small coastal town in the Philippines, where houses leaned close together and the sea decided the rhythm of life. His father was a fisherman who left before sunrise and came home smelling of salt and effort. His mother sold rice cakes in the market, smiling even when her feet hurt. Money was always short. Some days, dinner was simple soup and hope. But every morning at school, Mateo stood straight as the flag rose. The national anthem, Lupang Hinirang, floated across the yard. Even as a boy, he sang softly but clearly. The words made his chest feel strong. They spoke of land, freedom, and courage. When his father passed away during a stormy season, Mateo joined the army. He wanted to serve, he wanted to protect, he wanted to make his mother proud. Life as a soldier was hard. The pay was small, the days were long. Still, the anthem followed him, like a quiet promise. Years later, Mateo stood backstage in America, far from the heat and dust of training fields. His commander had encouraged him to audition after hearing him sing during a flag ceremony. At first, Mateo laughed it off. He was just a soldier, not a performer. But the idea stayed with him. He imagined his mother listening through a small radio, tears in her eyes. He imagined his fellow soldiers standing taller. So he filled out the form, saved money, and made the journey. Now, as a staff member nodded for him to prepare, his heart beat faster. He thought of the nights he skipped meals to send money home. He thought of the friends he lost. He whispered a short prayer, asking only for strength. The curtain opened slowly. The lights brightened. Mateo walked to the center of the stage. The crowd grew quiet, curious. He stood straight, shoulders back, eyes forward. Simon Cowell leaned slightly toward his microphone. Howie Mandel watched with interest. Heidi Klum smiled gently. Sofia Vergara tilted her head, sensing a story. Simon Cowell asked Mateo his name and where he was from. Mateo spoke calmly, his accent clear but careful. He said he was a soldier from the Philippines. He said he wanted to sing his national anthem. A small wave of surprise moved through the audience. Simon Cowell raised his eyebrows. He asked why. Mateo paused, then said he wanted to honor his country and his family. His voice did not shake, but his eyes held deep emotion. There was a brief silence before the music began. No loud track followed. No flashing lights moved. Mateo stood alone. He placed one hand over his heart. Then he started to sing. His voice was soft at first, almost like a prayer. Lupang Hinirang filled the room, not loud, but steady and true. Each word carried weight. The language was unfamiliar to many, but the feeling was clear. It spoke of love for land, of courage against struggle. Mateo's voice grew stronger, rising gently. He did not rush. He allowed each note to settle, to breathe. The audience leaned forward, listening closely. Some closed their eyes. The theater felt smaller, quieter, as if the song had wrapped everyone together. As the anthem continued, images formed in the minds of those listening. They saw a man who had known hunger. They heard the strength of someone who had stood guard while others slept. Mateo's voice cracked slightly on one line, then steadied again. It was not perfect, but it was honest. Simon Cowell's expression changed. The sharp look softened. He swallowed and looked down for a moment. Howie Mandel pressed his lips together, nodding slowly. Heidi Klum placed a hand on her chest. Sofia Vergara's eyes shone under the lights. The song reached its final line, lifting gently, then fading into silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the audience stood. Applause filled the theater, rising like a wave. It was not wild or loud at first, but deep and respectful. Mateo bowed his head slightly, breathing hard. He felt relief and surprise. He had sung with his whole heart, and now the room felt full of warmth. Simon Cowell stood up as well. He waited for the clapping to slow before speaking. His voice sounded different, softer than usual. He said he did not understand every word, but he felt every emotion. He said the performance was brave, pure, and meaningful. His eyes were wet, and he did not hide it. Simon Cowell spoke about music as a bridge, something that connects people across countries and lives. He said Mateo reminded everyone why songs matter. Howie Mandel praised Mateo's courage and control. Heidi Klum thanked him for sharing his heart. Sofia Vergara smiled and said the performance was beautiful and unforgettable. Mateo listened quietly, hands at his sides. He felt small but proud. He thought of his mother again, and of his fellow soldiers watching on a shared screen, perhaps cheering softly. The judges voted yes, one by one. Each light felt like a gentle step forward. Before Mateo could fully understand what was happening, Simon Cowell reached for the golden buzzer. The moment slowed. The crowd gasped. Simon Cowell looked at Mateo and said this was for every quiet hero who carries love in their heart. He pressed the button. Golden confetti poured down like warm rain. Mateo stood still, stunned. The lights sparkled around him. Tears ran down his face, slow and unashamed. He placed his hand over his heart again, standing at attention, as if honoring something sacred. After the show, Mateo sat alone for a moment in a quiet hallway. The noise faded. The glitter clung to his uniform. He felt tired but peaceful. A producer told him his story had touched millions. Mateo smiled gently. He did not think of fame. He thought of home. He thought of the flag rising in the schoolyard. He thought of his father's steady hands and his mother's tired smile. He had carried his country with him, across an ocean, and shared it in song. When Mateo returned to the Philippines weeks later, his town welcomed him with simple joy. Children waved small flags. Old neighbors clapped. His mother held him tightly, saying nothing at first. Later, as evening fell, Mateo stood outside and listened to the familiar sounds. He knew life would still be hard. He would still serve, but something had changed. His voice had traveled far, and in doing so, it had come back stronger. The anthem no longer lived only in ceremonies. It lived in hearts, connected across distance. And Mateo knew that sometimes, even a quiet song could move the world.